This video is about buying real estate and specifically the process. The purpose of this video is to walk buyers through the process of buying real estate. In my video, So You Want to Buy Some Real Estate, we talked about starting to work with an agent and a lender. In this video, we'll talk about what happens from getting loan approval to submitting an offer and on to closing. I try to keep these videos brief and concise, so if you ever have any questions, feel free to contact me. Once you have loan approval, your agent can now start to look for a property that's right for you. The way I work with my buyers is typically like this. I do the searching on my computer and I email them the results that match their wants and needs and price range. Of course, buyers can search too, and in my video entitled Navigating the MLS, I walk buyers and sellers through the process of searching on RE Colorado. That's Denver and the Front Ranges MLS. So, my folks have picked places to look at. I schedule showings to fit my buyer's schedule. For the sake of keeping this concise, let's just say we find my buyer's dream home on the very first outing. It happens. We discuss what would be a fair price to offer, and then I go ahead and prepare that offer. There's more than just money involved. There are time frames. I discuss all this with my buyers in order to write a contract that perfectly fits their wants and needs. It's at this time that your buyer's agent really starts to earn his money and gets to work. Preparing the offer usually takes an hour or so. It's then emailed to the buyers in order for them to review and sign. Signing is done online more often than not these days. Modern programs have made this very easy. Once they sign the offer, it is then forwarded via email to the seller's agent for them to review with their sellers. And this is very important. The offer has to include a letter from the buyer's lender, called a lender letter, that shows the seller and the seller's agent that the buyer has done all the preliminary work necessary in order to get pre-qualified. Also included in the offer is a copy of the earnest money check. I discussed the aspect of earnest money in my video called Earnest Money. In that video, I talk about the function of earnest money and how it pertains to the entire transaction. Let's say our first offer gets accepted. We are now under contract. Yay! So now what? Then your actual earnest money check has to go to the seller's title company within 48 hours time. That earnest money check will get deposited into an escrow account. The next thing that buyers, sellers, the buyer's lender, everybody involved really prefer to get out of the way is the inspection. In fact, your buyer's agent will write in the inspection objection deadline into the contract to coincide with the buyer's schedule. That date is usually a week to 10 days out from when the contract has been signed by both the buyer and the seller. I will discuss the inspection in greater detail in my video entitled The Inspection. For now, suffice it to say that buyers are entitled to inspection by law. The buyer will pay for the inspection at a cost of typically between $300 to $700. That price depends upon the square footage of the home and other variables. You may want to have a radon test done or a sewer scope done. Those added aspects of the inspection also add to the cost. However, it's a very important thing to do thoroughly so you know exactly what you're getting into when you buy this property. Stuff always turns up at inspection, always. Even new homes. There is usually some give and take between buyer's agent and seller's agent in order to resolve issues that turn up during inspection. The seller will either agree to repair things that turn up in inspection or perhaps even grant back money at closing time in order to help defray costs of making those repairs. Sometimes the deal will collapse during this time. If that's the case, everybody goes back to square one. Buyers go back to house hunting and sellers try to find another buyer for their property. Again, for the sake of brevity, let's say the seller agrees to fix everything in the inspection report and we're moving forward. The next big hurdle is appraisal. If you're you're not paying cash, but rather getting a loan, every lender is going to require that the property be appraised. The cost of appraisal is often factored into the buyer's closing costs. This is loan closing costs. The cost of appraisal is typically $500 to $800. Oftentimes, people get inspection and appraisal confused. They are not the same thing. Inspectors inspect the physical condition of the property. Home appraisers determine value. The buyer's lender will not order appraisal until the inspection is done, however. Why? Because as discussed, sometimes these deals collapse upon inspection. The buyer's lender will not order that appraisal because they don't want the buyer to have to pay for something that they don't need in the event that the transaction collapses in inspection. So what happens in appraisal? The appraiser visits the property. After he's pulled up comparables, he makes sure when he visits the property that the comparables actually do compare in terms of square footage, design, neighborhood, everything. He does a very thorough report, and then he issues that report to the buyer's lender. The desired outcome is that the property appraises for the selling price on the contract. If it appraises for less than the selling price, then we're back to the negotiating table. The seller either has to lower their selling price, or the buyer has to make up the difference in cash, or perhaps they meet somewhere in the middle. Once this hurdle is completed, it's smooth sailing to closing time. The closing is scheduled by mutual agreement of the buyers and sellers at the title company. The title company is typically decided on by the sellers and the seller's agent. More on title companies in my video entitled, Why a Title Company. Bottom line is, the title company receives funds wired from either the buyer's lender or if the buyer is paying cash from whatever source the money is coming from. The title company then redistributes those funds. They pay off the seller's loan in full. Cut checks to both the buyer's agent and the seller's agent. And they distribute funds to whatever liens may be on the property, whether a mechanic's lien or a tax lien or anything else. The bottom line is title cannot be transferred from seller to buyer until all loans and liens are paid off that exist on the property. That way, the buyer starts with a clean slate. They also draw up documents for buyers and sellers to sign that transfer ownership from seller to buyer. In Colorado, usually the buyer takes possession on the day of closing, but that too can be negotiated. Sometimes there's a rent back negotiated and the seller stays in the property a little bit longer. As you can see, there are a number of moving parts in this whole process. Having a professional in your corner looking out for your best interests is a smart thing to do. Remember, call or email me anytime.